Ready to record, Susan? Perfect. Okay. I was told not to start speaking until she pushes record. Welcome. Come on in. We've got sign-ins right up here. Perfect timing. We're just about to start. So we've got one seat here, one seat there, two in the very, very back. This is a great problem we've got today, sold out class, and then we've got several online. So we're super excited about today. I know you guys are all eager to be here and to hear our speaker today. So we're excited. Perfect. I'm going to wait just a second so I can let them sit down. Well, welcome, OLLI. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited, and we're in full swing. This is our third OLLI class of the semester. This is our first sold-out class of several sold-out classes this semester. And I'm going to identify the ones that we've already got sold out, not to make you feel bad if you're not in one of these. But really and truly, it's just to save you some time. We have some spots online. If you're not already in some of these classes I'm about to name to you. So tomorrow's Georgia O'Keeffe class has been sold out for a little bit. The chess class, which is back by popular demand from last semester, it's sold out. The first National Texas Tech Oil Rig Tour, that's sold out. And that one doesn't have online capability. So if you're not already in there, fingers crossed, we'll do that again, maybe in another semester. But we're super excited about the Build Beautiful Charcuterie class. That one is sold out. The Art of Seeing, which is at the Texas Tech Museum, sold out. And then our own Assistant Director Susan's painting class is sold out. Also not available online. Kind of hard to teach a painting class online. Not that it can't be done, but that one's not available online. A few classes I want to make you aware of that are close to getting sold out. And so if you have an inkling about any of these classes that you're kind of on the fence about joining, I think you better go ahead and join if you're thinking about it. First one is the Chuck Wagon history class, the Aging Gut GI class, Leprino Foods, decorating the White House, 3 women who helped build the Texas Panhandle, and the last class of the season, McPherson Cellars wine tasting. So like I said, these aren't sold out yet, but they're very hot classes. So if you're thinking about it, go ahead and jump in there. If we can help you, let us know. Just give us a call. Once again, when I say we, Susan is phenomenal to help you. I am still working the system. And then I want to highlight a few classes that I want you to consider. They're kind of some of our hidden gems. And if you hadn't considered them, I want you to take your catalog, take a look, review it, and consider joining one of these classes. I think you will be very happy. First one is we've got 2 book clubs. So the first one is in September, and we're going to be reading James. It's a retelling of Huck Finn, and that's a great book. So, and our OLLI book clubs are great. They're set up like your traditional book club. You read the book before class, and then you come to class, and we have some great discussion about it. We've got our Texas Tech English professor, Dr. Katie Cortese, teaches those classes, and she is a phenomenal teacher. So you wouldn't be disappointed with either one of those. The second one is Daughter of a Song, and that one is a little special. That one's going to be on November 11th. And the author is actually going to be joining us for the second half of that class because she is going to be in town. She is the daughter, her name is Sunny Curtis. She's the daughter of, her name is Sarah Curtis, daughter of Sunny Curtis from the Crickets. And so she'll be here with Literary Lubbock. And and Gretchen, nod if you still have some tickets for that gala.
Still have some individual tickets left. Phenomenal event.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal.
Yes. So if you are interested in Literary Lubbock Gala, that is that evening. There's still tickets available. And then also the book club that is earlier that day at 1 o'clock, I believe. So either of those two book clubs, I think you would really enjoy those. The second one is a journey into giant reptile ecology. Now, I'm going to point out this class because this class is going to be taught by Dr. Rod Williams, Vice Provost for Outreach and Engagement. And wink, wink, he's our boss. Would absolutely love for you to take this class. And as far as history goes, I feel like this is going to be the first OLLI class that we have a vice provost teaching this class. He's a dynamic speaker. You would not be disappointed with his class, so please consider that. Did I mention he's our boss? I'd love to get the room full. Do not mention this to him if you see him in passing. Another one that you want to consider is called Unlock Your Creativity. That one is taught by Texas Tech professor Dr. Patty Douglas. She is in the Department of Media and Communications, and this is a two-part series. And it's, if you've ever had any inkling to do anything creative, but you're just like, I can't think of a good idea, or I just want to explore something. She's going to teach us how to unlock those hidden treasures in our brain and get them out, and so that we can be our most creative self. So I think that one's a really great one that you might consider. And then the fourth one that I would love for you to consider is the other half of Healing, Integrative Oncology in Action. So this is going to be taught by Dr. Carla Daniele. She is a surgeon in the Department of Texas Tech Health Sciences Center. I consider her a friend. She's a dynamic speaker, and her talk is going to talk about the kind of the bridge between conventional and integrative medicine. You won't be disappointed with Carla. She's a great speaker. And then I think that wraps up my suggestions, if you want to think about those classes. A few other announcements and housekeeping. First, I want to raise your hand if someone does not want themselves in a picture, because we randomly take pictures during the class. If you don't want your picture taken, just raise your hand and we will make sure you're not in the lens. Nope, good, perfect. If you've got a cell phone, please make sure it's on silent. We've got people online, and then also to be respectful of our speaker. And then I want to point out, we've got an upcoming Zoom meeting that you all should have received an email about the Colette trips that we're going to be taking in 2026. So if you have any kind of interest whatsoever, just to learn more about it, not necessarily that you're ready to jump in, but attending one of these Zoom classes on September the 18th would be a good way for you to learn more about it and see if you're interested. And finally, being respectful of our instructor, like I said, make sure your cell phone is turned off. And speaking of our instructor, finally, I'm going to introduce our wonderful instructor. Lieutenant Scott Stevenson of the Texas Rangers received his bachelor's degree from McMurry University in Abilene. He has served 29 years with the Texas Department of Public Safety and 15 years with the Texas Rangers Division. He has provided security for the Texas Tech head football coaches since 2013, from Kliff Kingsbury to our current head coach, Joey McGuire. Scott is married with 3 children. Please help me welcome Scott Stevenson.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Gretchen, for kind of setting this up a couple of years ago, and now it's finally coming to fruition. So apologize about that, but I'm glad to be here today. And like I said, my name's Scott Stevenson. I have the pleasure of being a lieutenant with the Texas Rangers. Also in my bio, I was reading it to my wife before I came, and she said, I would rewrite that if I were you. So uh, however, one thing I did leave off of that, I am married. I have three kids, Ashley, Brandon, and Cameron, which are in ABC order, according to my wife.
Yeah.
But also I have three wonderful grandbabies. So all three girls, 7, 3, and 3 months. So forgot to include them in my bio, but that's a big part of my life. So thank you all for being here. I really, I guess, blessed to have this many people that want to show up to hear me talk. But the Texas Ranger history is very important. One, it's important to me, and it's also important to what we do. And it's one of the reasons why I became a Texas Ranger is because the history of it appealed to me at a very early age. And as I was speaking to some people this morning or earlier before I started talking, I was born and raised in Abilene, graduated from Abilene High. I know I have a rival in the back that went to Cooper, but that's where my mom went to, so we're good. But my father was in law enforcement at a very early age when I was small, and he kind of got out of that because my mom thought it was too dangerous. So I knew very early on that I wanted to be in law enforcement. My dad's best friend was a chief of police in Abilene, so they kind of recruited me to be a police officer for the Abilene Police Department. But one of my dad's best friends that he pulled over while he was a law enforcement officer became to be a state trooper. So we had different police cars at our house all the time. So but when I was in college, my dad encouraged me to do a ride along with the police department and with the state troopers. And I had a ride along with one of his buddies. And I mean, I could tell you the time we left the house when he picked me up to when I got home, and I was never disappointed. And I've been excited about this career ever since that first day that I stepped into a black and white. So it's really been a blessing to follow your dreams, to wake up every morning to realize that this is what you wanted to do and to actually get to do it. So when I graduated from trooper school, well, let me back up. So I met my wife the first day of college orientation at Hardin Simmons. I played basketball. She was a cheerleader, and we met. So I fell in love at first sight. It might have took her a week or two before, but it's all water under the bridge now. So we met, and I applied to DPS as soon as I got my 60 college hours, because that's how much it required you to have before you could become a state trooper. So you had to have 2 years of college. So as soon as I hit my 2 years, I applied and I got accepted. So I was 21 years old when I went to the academy, not the youngest, but I was the second youngest in my class. Graduated at 22. So I was on the road, and I was telling people up here this morning, like one of my very first traffic stops, I remember stopping a older lady, and she was asking me if I was even old enough to tote a gun. So I was like, yes, ma'am, I am. They even gave me bullets yesterday. So, you know, so in my career with the department was very good. I started out as a trooper in Sweetwater after I graduated in '96. I did 5 years on the road, promoted, went to Austin at the state capitol back when that was like not a really cool job. But I was at the state capitol working the night shift from 10 p to 6 a every night. And I still remember the first day I walked up to the capitol, and I had been to the capitol before, but it's different when you have that job to protect the people there at night, the representatives, senators, and so forth. But I remember walking up to the building thinking, golly, I get to be in this building every night. And I got a little old toward the end, but I still remember that feeling of walking up to the state capitol thinking, man, this is a cool job that I get to, that they entrust me to supervise people to guard the state capitol. Probably one of the cleanest buildings I think I have ever been in my entire life. So I made sergeant. Then I went into the field as a highway patrol sergeant in Denton, and then did a little bit of undercover work, so to speak, for a little while, chasing fugitives and sex offenders and what they call the special crimes program. I did that for a little while, but my wife didn't like the hours, so I came back into the field as a highway patrol sergeant, and I did that for about 8 more years before I promoted to Texas Ranger in 2010. From there, I made Ranger. I went to Wichita Falls, which I had never been to Wichita Falls until I made Ranger. And they said, we need a good guy in Wichita Falls. I said, well, if you make me a Ranger, I'll go wherever you want me to go. And they sent me to Wichita Falls, and I was like, whew, man. Yeah. I'm a man of my words. I will go to Wichita Falls. So went to Wichita Falls, did that job for a year, which was really good. The Ranger that was there before me worked a lot of good cases, but they hadn't had a Ranger there for like a year and a half. So my first year was really just getting to know people and them trusting me to do the job that he used to do, because with our line of work, and we'll kind of get into that a little more, we work off of referrals. You know, we don't go out and solicit what we do. So it's really up to the agencies that call us to say, hey, we need your help. So once they call us, we go run whatever it is, we go do it. And it's not that we do it the best, but we're trained a special way to do things the way that we do it, and we move on to the next job. So so it was very important for me to establish those relationships with the people there, that they trusted the Ranger before me to work a lot of high profile cases. And that's a lot of what we do is, you know, we fill the shoes, or we fill the boots, so to speak, of the person before us. And we fill the boots of the Rangers that came before. So one of the best things about this job is the men and women that came before me had some really big boots, right? So you always want to fill those boots, and you want to leave the legacy better than it was when you got there. So that's always been my motto as a trooper, to be the best trooper I could be, and as a Ranger, to leave it at least a little bit better than it was when I got here. So with all that to be said, I'll play this video. This video came from the Texas Ranger Association Foundation Museum in Waco. And if you don't know, that's where our Hall of Fame is. And that's where all the historic records of the Texas Rangers for the past 200 years reside. So if you've ever been through Waco, it's right on I-35. I can't tell you the exit, but it's right on the right-hand side, right across the street from Baylor University. So when they do their, the funny thing is when they're doing their practice for football, when we're there, you can hear the stampede. It's like the horses are running across the little river straight to the Ranger Museum. So so it's kind of cool to be right across from Baylor, and it's really good when we go there and play them and we win. So, but I'm gonna play this video, and this will kind of encompass everything that the Rangers have done for the past 200 years, and it's a very good representation of what we do. So I'd like to share that with y'all, because a lot of people might not have seen this video.
Texas Rangers. It's the name of one of the most respected law enforcement organizations in the world. And ever since the Rangers first captured the public's imagination back in the 1800s, it's been a name steeped in legend. Novels, comic books, songs, movies, TV shows, all have depicted the Texas Rangers, and sometimes with a lot more imagination than accuracy. These entertaining stories have helped create a Ranger legend that can sometimes be hard to untangle from Ranger reality. So, what is the truth about the Texas Rangers? To know that, we need to go back 200 years when the land we now know as Texas was the northern frontier of Mexico.
Settlers were pouring in from the United States with the promise of new land and new opportunities. But soon, their farms and villages were being raided by the Karankawa, the people already living along the Gulf Coast and in the river valleys. In 1823, the leader of the settlers, Stephen F. Austin, responded to these attacks. He asked Mexican authorities for permission to recruit additional men to act as rangers for the common defense. Many have called this moment the beginning of the Texas Rangers. But in fact, the Rangers were part of a much older tradition. Long before the Texas Rangers, there were the Spanish and later Mexican Compañías Volantes, or flying squadrons. These fast-moving, well-armed horsemen had protected the northern frontier of New Spain since the 1700s. Those first Texas Rangers were quite a sight. They had no uniforms and dressed mainly in buckskin or leather. They wore wide-brimmed hats against the rain and sun. They carried long knives, later called Bowie knives, for hand-to-hand fighting. They favored vaquero-style saddles and carried long rifles they could fire up to 3 times a minute. Each man provided his own weapons and horses. And for all the hardship and danger they faced, they could make as much as $1.25 a day. The Rangers reflected the Texas population of their time. Many were Anglo-Europeans, many were Hispanic, and some were American Indians. All brought their different backgrounds and skills to the defense of the Texas frontier. In 1835, tensions with Mexico boiled into outright rebellion. Leaders of the new Republic of Texas called for a corps of Rangers, turning these volunteer guardsmen into soldiers. A few weeks later, the entire Ranger Company from Gonzales, later known as the Immortal 32, gave their lives at the Alamo. From the Alamo to the decisive Battle of San Jacinto, Rangers serving alongside the Texas Army distinguished themselves in the fight for independence. The Rangers then played a vital role in the new republic, protecting settlers from bandits, Comanche and Apache raids, and military incursions from Mexico. In August of 1840, in retaliation for the bloody Council House fight, a great Comanche raiding party swept all the way to the Gulf Coast, sacking and burning the towns of Linville and Victoria. As they returned north, Rangers led by Matthew Caldwell and Ed Burleson intercepted the war party and fought a running battle along Plum Creek. Rangers, fighting alongside local militia and Tonkawa allies, dealt the Comanches a devastating defeat. One of those Rangers at Plum Creek was John Coffee Hayes. Hayes had come to Texas 2 years earlier with no military experience. Training with Tejano Ranger companies, he learned horsemanship and tactics from Ranger Captains Jose Antonio Maria, Antonio Perez, and Salvador Flores. Later, riding with his close friend and fellow Ranger, Lipan Apache Chief Flaco, Hayes became an expert tracker. Within 3 years, he was promoted to captain. Hayes commanded a highly disciplined company, trained as he had been in the combined Anglo, Mexican, and American Indian traditions. As one observer wrote, these Rangers could ride like a Mexican, trail like an Indian, shoot like a Tennessean, and fight like the devil. In 1842, Mexican troops occupied San Antonio. Captain Jack Hayes and his men lured the much larger force out of the city and into a trap set by Captain Caldwell and his Rangers. They quickly routed the Mexican regulars at the Battle of Salado Creek. 2 years later at Walker Creek, Hayes's 14 Rangers defeated a force of more than 70 Comanche warriors. This engagement proved what a formidable force the Texas Rangers could be, especially when armed with the new Colt Patterson 5-shot revolvers. Revolving firearms were an advanced military technology, and the Rangers were among the first to use them in combat. Hayes sent one of his men, Samuel Walker, to help gun manufacturer Samuel Colt develop a sturdier, more powerful 44 caliber 6-shot revolver with a 9-inch barrel. This heavy weapon, designed to be used from horseback, fired a pistol ball at rifle velocity. It was named the Walker Colt in honor of the Ranger. When the United States and Mexico went to war in 1846, Texas Ranger companies were drawn into service with the U.S. Army. Risking his life to provide information on Mexican troop movements, Samuel Walker became the first great hero of the war. At the Battle of Monterey, Walker, Hayes, Ben McCullough, and William Bigfoot Wallace, all former Rangers, served with distinction. Hendrick Arnold was another former Ranger fighting in Mexico. A veteran of San Jacinto, Arnold is believed to be the first African-American Texas Ranger. The Rangers' reputation as fighting men grew, but so did their reputation for being undisciplined and vengeful. With memories of General Santa Anna's atrocities at the Alamo and Goliad still fresh in their minds, some Rangers saw the war as an opportunity for revenge. The Rangers ended the Mexican War with both fame and infamy. Every newspaper reader in America knew about these brave fighting men from Texas. But to many Mexicans, the Rangers were Los Diablos Tejanos, the Devil Texans, an enemy they would always fear and despise. After the Mexican War, many veteran Rangers returned to protecting the frontier. One of the most famous was John Salmon Rip Ford, who rose to the rank of captain, then became commander of all Texas Rangers in the 1850s. During the Civil War, Texas joined the Confederacy, sending thousands of men to fight in the East. With fewer men ranging the frontier, the Comanches pushed the line of settlement back more than 100 miles. When the war ended, Texas was gripped by violence and lawlessness. In 1874, 2 new Ranger outfits were formed. The Frontier Battalion, led by Major John B. Jones, ranged the frontier, gradually pushing forward the line of settlement. The Special Force, under the command of Leander McNelly, enforced the law in settled areas, interceded in violent feuds, and patrolled the Mexican border. McNelly's Special Force was aggressive, often too aggressive. In 1875, they pursued cattle rustlers across the Mexican border. The cattle were eventually returned, but not before the killing of innocent Mexican citizens caused an international incident. By the mid-1870s, the era of Comanche raids was coming to an end, but crime was still on the rise. Horse thieves, cattle rustlers, fence cutters, bank robbers, and feuding gangs were the new threats. In response, the Rangers began to evolve from a frontier fighting force to a statewide law enforcement organization. Major Jones' Frontier Battalion put an end to violent feuds and pursued criminals of all kinds, ending the careers of some notorious outlaws. Ranger John B. Armstrong chased the killer John Wesley Hardin all the way to Florida, capturing him on a passenger train and bringing his prisoner back alive. Rangers also pursued Sam Bass, whose gang had committed what was then the largest train robbery in U.S. history. They surprised Bass in Round Rock as he attempted to rob a bank. Refusing to surrender, Bass died after a shootout in the streets. Throughout Ranger history, their effectiveness depended on the quality of their leadership. From the Frontier Battalion era, 4 of these leaders came to be called the 4 Great Captains. The soft-spoken, hard-working James A. Brooks. The quick-thinking, tireless John R. Hughes. John Harris Rogers, who was said to carry a pistol in one hand and a Bible in the other. And the colorful William McDonald, who adopted an old Ranger saying as his personal motto: "No man in the wrong can stand up against a fellow in the right that keeps a-comin'." In 1896, Rangers were sent to El Paso to prevent an illegal prize fight. It marked the rare occasion when almost all active duty Rangers were together at one time and place. And it provided us this portrait of the Frontier Battalion near the end of the century. A moment frozen in time. In 1910, the people of Mexico rose up against the dictator Porfirio Diaz, plunging the country into a bloody, multi-sided, decade-long revolution. Chaos, violence, and guerrilla warfare soon spilled into Texas. The Rangers responded to raids on ranches, acts of sabotage, and a confusing mix of criminal and revolutionary activities on this side of the border. Most Rangers performed their duties lawfully, but some did not. These Rangers, some newly recruited and with little training, operated outside the law. The Porvenir Massacre and other incidents brought a day of reckoning for the Texas Rangers. In 1919, State Representative Jose T. Canales demanded an in-depth investigation that would ultimately lead to major reforms. But for a time, politics interfered with any real progress, as one governor after another meddled with the organization. Governor Miriam Ma Ferguson fired nearly every Ranger on the first day of her second term, replacing them with her political supporters, many of whom were incompetent and corrupt. During the Great Depression, when crime ran rampant, only a handful of the remaining Rangers were up to the task, but those few sure made their mark. Captain Tom Hickman, a rodeo champion, worked the tough oil boom towns of North Texas and solved multiple bank robberies. He later became head of the Ranger Force. Captain Manuel T. Lone Wolf Gonzalez brought gamblers, drug smugglers, and bootleggers to justice. Like a number of other Rangers, Captain Frank Hamer often defied Jim Crow-era norms by defending accused African Americans against lynch mobs. After leaving the Rangers, Hamer worked with former Ranger Manny Galt and other law enforcement officers to track down and kill the notorious criminals Bonnie and Clyde. Captain Will Wright was a nightmare for bootleggers, smugglers, and criminals of all sorts. Known for his personal creed, to act impartially without regards to nationality, color, or wealth, Wright earned the respect of Tejanos along the border. Over his long career, Will Wright was the only Ranger to serve in the Frontier Battalion, the Ranger Force, and the Department of Public Safety Texas Rangers. In 1935, everything changed for the Texas Rangers. The state legislature, led by reform-minded Governor James V. Allred, created the Texas Department of Public Safety. This modern organization was divided into 6 divisions, each with its own mission. One of these divisions was the Texas Rangers. The days of political appointments and favoritism were over. Training and professionalism were the new standards, and every new applicant was required to pass demanding written, oral, and physical exams. Now firmly established by state law and protected from political interference, the modern Texas Rangers had an immediate impact, tackling corruption and organized crime across the state. In San Augustine County, Captain James W. McCormick, Dan Hines, and other Rangers worked with local black residents to break up the McClanahan-Burleson gang, criminals who had terrorized the county for years. In the decades ahead, the Rangers became an increasingly sophisticated law enforcement agency, using the latest methods and incorporating new technologies in their investigations. But often, Ranger courage was still their most effective tool. In 1955, Captain Bob Crowder ended a violent hostage standoff at the Rusk Hospital for the criminally insane. Crowder entered the barricaded area alone, convinced the perpetrators to surrender, and walked them out without firing a shot. Then in the 1960s, when a strike at the Lone Star Steel plant led to assaults, bombings, and shootings, Bob Crowder's even-tempered approach prevailed again. Crowder promised to enforce the law and prevent, rather than escalate, any violence. And once again, it worked. But not every situation ended peacefully. In 1978, Ranger Bobby Doherty was killed during a drug raid in Denton. He was the first Ranger to die in the line of duty in almost half a century. Only a decade later, Ranger Stanley C. Guffey sacrificed his own life while saving the life of a child during a kidnapping. The Rangers understood the risks, but proved themselves time and again. In 1974, Ranger Captains Pete Rogers and G.W. Burks led an assault to end a deadly hostage standoff at the Texas State Prison in Huntsville. When a group calling itself the Republic of Texas seized hostages in 1997, Rangers under Captain Barry Caver recovered all the hostages safely. In 1999, the FBI launched a nationwide manhunt for a serial killer on the run. Ranger Sergeants Drew Carter and Brian Taylor tracked the man to El Paso and made the arrest. That same year, Ranger Sergeant Matt Cawthon led a team that shut down an international child pornography ring, earning citations from Congress and the Department of Justice. These are just a handful of the thousands of cases successfully solved by the modern Texas Rangers.
In the late 20th century, the Texas Rangers once again began to look like the diverse state they served. This started with the recruitment of Arturo Rodriguez, Rodolfo Rodriguez, and Ray Martinez in the 1970s. In 1988, Lee Young, who is also of Seminole heritage, became the first African-American Ranger since Frontier days. Then, in 1993, Mari Aldridge became the first female Ranger, and Richard Cheng became the first Asian American Ranger. 1 year later, I, Christine Abel Nix, became the first African American female Texas Ranger. As the 21st century dawned, the organization welcomed its first African American and Hispanic chiefs of the Texas Rangers. Chief Earl R. Pearson in 2004 and Chief Antonio Tony Leal in 2008. More women joined the Ranger ranks as well. In 2014, Ranger Wendy Wakeman was promoted to lieutenant, making her then the highest-ranking female in Ranger history. In 2020, she was promoted to captain alongside Ranger Melba Cyans. And in 2023, Wakeman was promoted to major, making her the first woman in Ranger history to command a company. Today, the men and women of the Texas Rangers tackle cases ranging from violent crime to public corruption to drug cartels, from human trafficking and child exploitation to crisis negotiations, from domestic terrorism to bomb disposal. Today's Rangers also work closely with state, federal, and international law enforcement agencies, including U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, Mexican authorities, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. As one of the world's premier law enforcement agencies, the Rangers continue to evolve with the times, adopting the most current methods and technologies, but still using some age-old Ranger skills. That's who the Texas Rangers are today, more than 200 years after Stephen F. Austin called for men to act as Rangers for the common defense. For 2 centuries, Texas Rangers have embodied the spirit of Texas, bold, decisive, ready to face any challenge, celebrating victories, learning from setbacks, always remembering their duty is the same today as it has been from the start, to protect the people of Texas. As for those Texas Ranger legends, they will continue as long as people tell stories about heroes and villains. Some may criticize, some only praise. The reality, as always, is more complicated. But for more than 200 years, we find countless stories of Texas Ranger courage, loyalty, and heroism that are just plain true.
Can't take credit for that. However, I thought it's very important to show you all that. So it goes way back. It explains better than I can explain to you in words, the history, the 200 years that the Texas Rangers have been created. Do y'all have any questions so far? Perfect. Oh, we got one. Yes, ma'am.
Rangers are there right now?
So that's a very great question. How many Texas Rangers are there now? Currently, we have 178. But we're mandated by the legislature to have 185. So we have 7 vacancies at this current time. That's as of looking yesterday. So, because I figured that question might be asked. Yes, sir. So the question, do we own our own horses? The answer to that is, well, I'm sure there's some Rangers that have their own horses. When I was in Wichita Falls, the prison, in most prisons, I have learned, provide the local ranger with a horse. So at the All Red unit, when I got there, I said, hey, I'm just curious what, I want to go ride the horse, because if we get a manhunt when somebody escapes from prison, our job is to go track him down. And they have the dogs, and so our job is to get on the horse, follow the dogs, and go get the person, bring them back. So I didn't want to be that person to get on a horse and fall off, because I've ridden a horse as a kid growing up, but I hadn't rode a horse a whole lot as a highway patrolman. So I went to the prison and said, okay, Ranger, here's your saddle. I mean, it's got Texas Rangers all carved out nice and neatly on it. And here's your horse. And I'm like, perfect. So all that to say is we don't have our own horses. We as a company have talked about doing more horse training, just in case we get back into that. Knock on wood, we haven't had a whole lot of prison escapes here, so we haven't had to use horseback as much, but we do have a horse unit down at the state capitol that we use to do riot control and field force training and so forth like that. Yes, ma'am.
Do you furnish your own weapon, and is it weapon of your choice, or does somebody mandate that?
Okay, so the question is, do we furnish our own weapon? And so I'll talk a little bit about that. So I'll start at the top because this is what it's easier for me to do. So like you saw in the video, they used to wear the rounded hats, and of course you saw they all had mustaches. We don't do mustaches because we have no facial hair. So we wear white hats, typically a silver sand type hat. We don't wear black because bad guys wear black. But we wear a silver belly, silver sand type hat. Then going down, this is pretty much our typical daily wear. I don't wear a suit all the time or a jacket, but a white shirt, badge, and I'll pass this around. So our badge is made out of a Cinco peso. So 1948 Cinco peso because it's the most pure silver of any coin. So this is a 1948 Cinco peso that they press into our badge, and looks like this. So when they press it, there's only three companies that that are authorized by the state to make our badges. So they're very special. And in order to get one, you get one when you first make Ranger, but then after you serve as a year, then you can get a personal badge that has your name on it. So I'll pass this around. Just make sure I get it back. No. The department, my rank, which is lieutenant, and then the Texas Rangers underneath. And my personalized badge has my name, Scott Stevenson, lieutenant and Texas Ranger on the bottom. But if you look at the back of the badge, because it is a Cinco peso, you'll see, to make for sure that it's a true Mexican peso, you'll see Estados de Mexicanos on the back, and that's how you know it's a true Cinco peso. Yeah.
No, the early times there was an A and B.
Sure. So the question was how many companies? So we have it broken down. I brought our little tablet here. So we're company C, but you have A, B, C, D, E, and F, and then we have headquarters. So 6 altogether. Company C, our company here, encompasses 71 counties. We have a major, which is my boss. We have 2 lieutenants, and then we have 21 Rangers that cover the 71 counties in company C. So you might wonder, like, well, that math doesn't really add up. So every Ranger here is responsible for 4 to 5 counties that they have to work. The life of a Ranger, like those guys are working in the rain, you're on call 24/7, subject to go just about anywhere in the state. We have statewide jurisdiction to go anywhere in the state, and then we also have nationwide jurisdiction if we need it to go outside the state. If we have, say, a murder, where your suspect murders somebody here and then they go to another state, we can do that too. So back to the uniform. Always wear tie pretty much unless we're in the field. You saw some people there wearing some different, what we call BDUs. It's more of like a tactical clothing. So you can move around, process crime scenes in case you're dealing with some type of blood or something like that, or you're out in the elements. But we wear a tie, white shirt. Most guys wear some type of lapel pin or tie tack. This one right here is made by the same guy who made my badge. I won't pass it around just because it's very small, but very intricate work. It's the same as my badge, has my name on the front, my rank, Texas Rangers on the back. It's a little spur. And then it has my kids' initials on the side, ABC, for Ashley, Brandon, and Cameron. So everybody kind of personalized their own stuff. So then going further down, you asked about my gun. We're allowed to carry pretty much whatever gun we want, which is different from the Highway Patrol. Highway Patrol, they carry the same gun. That way, in case they get into a shootout, they can switch out magazines and so forth. But the Rangers are allowed to carry pretty much what we want to carry. Most carry the typical 45 ACP handgun, just because it's a traditional gun. And you saw some of the pictures of some of the ones that were nice, the Colt revolvers that are all engraved. I have a gun being engraved now, but it'll probably be a couple of years before I get it back. So, but our belts, we wear, some guys you'll see they have the double, what I said, double rig, you have 2 belts, one that goes up here and one down here. I just wear the single one because I don't have to chase after a whole lot of people anymore, and it holds up my pants pretty good. So, but the specifics about my belt, all my leather material were made by a prisoner in All Red. So there's a guy that's a jeweler. He made my buckle, which has a company seal on it. And then my belt, it was made by another inmate. So we always say they have a lot of time on their hands, so they can do us a lot of good stuff. So, but he also made my holster. And then you can see the grips on the gun that I carry, if you can't see it. The grips, these were made by an inmate in Houston.
Wow.
And then, like I said, we typically carry additional magazines and so forth. We typically wear some type of slacks. You'll see some guys wear Wranglers. It just depends on where you are, what you wear, and what you're comfortable in. Then we wear the standard cowboy boots.
It has the seal of Texas on it. State seal.
So we have a boot maker that makes Ranger boots, Randy Watson, and he makes the boots and puts the Ranger badge on them for us. So it seems like since I got into this outfit, everything we do has some type of Ranger badge on it somewhere. So, yes, sir.
Carry a Bowie knife like it did in the earthquake.
I knew somebody was going to ask that question. So I don't carry a Bowie knife. However, I carry a tactical knife, and it's more for, and this is some training that I went to last year. A lot of guys carry it, but it's more of a tactical knife for up close, because a lot of things we do when we're talking to people, you know, across the table or face to face, we do a lot of close where if you needed to, pardon my language, if you needed to go to self-defense or shoot someone, you might not be able to do that. So up close and personal with a knife, what we've learned and trained to do with a knife, very, very good. Very, very good training. So, but yeah, I didn't bring my knife today. And when I walked out, I said, I should have brought my knife. I didn't think I was going to have to fight anybody today. You never know. You never know. So, so that's pretty much our, go ahead.
The double belt. Why two belts?
It's, you know, I've never figured out the answer to that. It's just more the typical Ranger style with the double rig. And that's a traditional, a lot of guys wear the double rig. They call us concrete Rangers in Lubbock because we're not in the dirt very much. So we slim down a little bit and we just wear a single rig, but some of the guys still wear the traditional double rig. So, qualifications to become a Ranger, in case you wanted to know, you have to have 8 years of law enforcement. And 4 of those years have to be with DPS. So you have to be a trooper for at least 4 years. So if you work, say, for Lubbock PD or Lubbock SO for 4, and then you become a trooper, then you could apply to be a Ranger. Back in the old days, some of the pictures they showed you with Ray Martinez, he worked for Austin PD when they had the tower shooting at the University of Texas. And he was the guy who went up there and took care of business. And as soon as that was over, they're like, hey, we want you to become a Ranger. So if back in the day, if they wanted you and you had done something very spectacular in your law enforcement career, they give you a Cinco Peso and bring you aboard. Now you have to go through the process of, you know, being a trooper, the interview, the exam, the exam, the interview. And they said physical fitness training. We don't really do physical fitness training when we bring somebody in, but we do physical fitness training once you're in. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a question I asked at the Hall of Fame when I was in Waco. And they didn't seem to have any information, but on the wall, there's a plaque that says Texas Ranger Hall of Fame was dedicated on February 7th, 1976 by the following. And it has Dolph Briscoe, Governor, John Tower, United States Senator, Lloyd Benson, United States Senator, and Danny Thomas, Entertainer. My question is that the Danny Thomas that we all know, or is this someone else?
That's a good
They
question.
could not answer that question.
That's a good question. I'd hate to tell you, it probably is, but I don't know that for a fact. So
Several people.
but I tell you what, I will call down there when we get out of this class and I will find out. So that'd be an easy phone call to make.
And if it is, I assume he was probably the speaker or something, but I'm just curious.
Yes, sir. That question I don't know. Can we move this over?
Well, it is.
And somebody else had a question? Yes, ma'am.
As Texas Rangers go into a situation, are they automatically in charge of it?
So the question was, is once we get activated, are we automatically in charge? And the answer to that is, it depends on the situation. Some agencies, when they call us, if it's say if it's a murder, true whodunit murder, and they want us to take it over, we will take it from start to finish. Sometimes we get called in the middle. Sometimes we don't get called at all. And the district attorney's office will reach out to us and say, hey, we need your help on this particular investigation because we've looked at it and we don't think that it meets our expectations. And so we have to go in there on the back end of it and figure out what it is, if there was something missed or something that needs to be done to bring that investigation to fruition. So all that to say is it just depends on the situation. We're very capable of taking things over, but we don't go in like you see on TV and like, hey, go get us some coffee because we got it. We don't do that. So, yes, sir.
What is the most interesting case you've worked since you've been a ranger?
Most interesting case. Oh, I've had a lot. Some of them I don't know if I can even talk about because they're still pending, but I did get to help out with the Twin Peaks shooting in Waco when they had the motorcycle gangs that shot, well, mainly they shot each other, but that was very interesting. And we came in on the back end of that, and I'll give you a little purview to that. So all of our rangers are trained in several fields, and we'll have a slide later, but all of our rangers are trained shooting investigation, shooting reconstruction, crime scene, shooting trajectory, like they said, tracking. So we track people. But the main thing is, interview and interrogation, photographs. They spend a lot of time. We send them to 3 weeks of crime scene school, what we call CSI school, like you see on TV. And then we also send a handful of rangers that are really good at doing crime scene stuff to the National Forensic Academy in Knoxville, Tennessee. And that's a 10-week school that goes over everything that you've learned so far about crime scene. And then it takes it to a whole nother level. So if you've ever heard of the body farm, so I was at the body farm, and well, I came home from the body farm after my 10 weeks, the day before the Twin Peaks shooting. And I saw it on TV, and my wife said, please tell me you're not going to that. I think, I don't know. I'm looking at my phone. I don't know. And I did go. I didn't go that particular day, but I went probably a couple of weeks after. And when I say interesting from the fact of a lot of times what we do is analyze documents and videos and so forth. So we looked at every angle, every video that was taken, because you had some guys that said, oh, I didn't shoot. Some people say, well, I wasn't even there. So literally had to verify everybody's story, but you look at every video to see and track every bullet that was fired, every shell casing that we recovered, and to put people back in places. So they pretty much arrested everybody, and if you were there, you got arrested. And then they ended up letting people go later, but it was our job to corroborate the information and make for sure that every person that needed to be indicted got indicted. So there's, I think, four or five people that we saw that did crimes that didn't get indicted that we got indicted. So that was pretty interesting, because it was a big group. It wasn't just me, but it was a big group of guys and girls looking at a whole lot of data and putting that whole scene together. Because it was, you're eating dinner at a restaurant, and then next thing you know, it's just shots fired in 5 to 8 different directions. So it was a lot of putting things back in place and reconstructing it and angles and everything else. So that was pretty interesting.
Y'all use trained animals like dogs a lot, or tracking and that kind of stuff?
Yes, ma'am. So she asked if we use trained animals for tracking. We do. We have tracking. Well, we don't personally have tracking dogs, but we use tracking dogs from like the TDC. If it's like a cold case investigation, if we're looking for a body, we use cadaver dogs. Of course, the Department of Public Safety has canines that search for narcotics. Then we also have explosive canines. If we get into a situation where somebody has, explosives or something like that, they can sniff those out. So yes, we do use dogs. We just don't personally have our own dogs in our division. Yes, sir.
Do you ever have to work with the National Guard or anything like that?
So the question is asked about if we ever work with the National Guard, and the answer to that is yes. Especially on, I'd say that the majority of time that I've worked with them has been on national disasters. When I was a trooper, Hurricane Ike, Hurricane Katrina, we work with the National Guard every day. And then down on the border, currently, they have National Guard guys and ladies there that we work with, go to briefings with. You know, they have their job of what they do. We have our job. We communicate to make sure that we're all in the same place. And then Hurricane Harvey, as a ranger, I worked, thank you. Thank you very much. I've worked with the National Guard and doing natural disasters there. So, yes, sir.
Scott also has done community service. I had the honor following him around town with Meals on Wheels. And he ran a Meals on Wheels route with me. And let me tell you something, when you have a 9/11 Porsche and you have a guy that's 20 feet tall, first thing that we had to do was to take my top down so he could even get in the car. Then he had to drag himself out of it every time when we went to the doors. And the funny thing is that, Scott, you'll remember, there were a couple of doors we walked up and he always wears his badge. And he had his badge on and he'd look at people and say, I'm just here to deliver.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I had the honor. We not have a great time.
We had a great time. We really had a great time.
He is really, he looks mean, but he's really a normal.
No, we had a great time doing the Meals on Wheels. But like you said, you can't go anywhere in uniform that you don't expect somebody to know who you are. And 9 times out of 10, that's a good thing. But that 1% could be a bad thing. So you always have to be prepared for that 1%. And then that's what I told people as being a state trooper. 99% of the people you deal with that you come in contact with are good law-abiding citizens, but the 1% want to hurt you. And those are the ones that you really have to watch and be careful with. But yeah, we had a great time that day. It was very fun. So did you have a question?
Did y'all go to Kerrville at all to help with the rest?
Oh, so she asked if we went to Kerrville. Yes, ma'am. Matter of fact, one of my rangers, he's doing, the governor's coming into town today. And I couldn't do that detail. So the governor's coming in town today and then he's leaving tonight to go do his shift on Kerrville. But we're still sending people back and forth to Kerrville until we retrieve every person and get that place all cleaned up. So, yeah.
One missing.
I said, yes. So, yes, ma'am.
Does every state have something comparable to the Texas Rangers?
So the question's asked, does every state have something comparable? Yes, ma'am. I don't know about every state, but the majority of the states have something comparable. No other state has Rangers other than Arizona. They have Arizona Rangers, but no state dresses as good as we do. That's what I say. But no, they do. When I was in Tennessee, they have Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. They call TBI. Georgia has GBI. So they basically do the same thing. When we were in Tennessee for 10 weeks, we got to work close in hand with TBI, GBI, the CID from the Army, and we all pretty much do the same thing. We just have a different. Every person has a different way of doing things. Like I said, it's not that our way is the best. It's just a way that we've prepped it and prepared it, and we've sent people to go get the best training across the nation to learn how to do it. If you tell us, hey, I can get you a better fingerprint using this chemical, and we use it and we get better fingerprints, then we're going to use that chemical. You know, we're not going to keep using the same stuff we've used, like back in the day where they had I can't even think of what the name of it is. Now we use Blue Star, but like to find blood on situations where you can't see it with the naked eye. And we use liquid crystal violet, LCV, if it's, on certain surfaces, substrates, and then we use Blue Star on other surfaces. So if you tell us, hey, we can get you this, then we can do that, then that's a lot better. So we start using that. So we're not stuck in our own ways just because we've done it for 200 years, we always look to do it better. So
How many other Texas Rangers do you interact with on a regular basis?
So I interact. So here in Lubbock, we have it's my boss, me, and then there's 5 other Rangers here at the office. And the reason that is because Lubbock is the regional office for Company C. So you have more Rangers. Generally, like when I was in Wichita Falls, I was the only Ranger there. Now we have 2 just because it's a busy area. When I was in Brownfield, the 4 counties I covered there, Terry, Lynn, Yoakum, Garza, and Lubbock. So I was the only Ranger in that office with the Highway Patrol. But some of our Rangers are in courthouses, some of them are in police departments or sheriff's offices. It just depends on where we can find office space. But if we typically, if you're in a bigger regional office, so here is Lubbock, E is in El Paso, Company B is in Garland. I was there for about 6 months when I made lieutenant. A is in McAllen, F is in Waco, and then D is in McAllen, or I'm sorry. A, yes, A is in Houston, sorry. So every regional office has a big office where you might see 4 to 5 Rangers, a major, and maybe a couple of lieutenants. Here, we're pretty lucky here because we have the criminal profiler for the entire Ranger division for the entire state of Texas. So we cover, Texas has 254 counties. We have 71 of it, but our criminal profiler covers all 254 counties in Texas. And that's a program that it kind of went away, but then we just brought it back. So for the last 2.5 to 3 years, he's been going to training to become certified as a criminal profiler. And so basically what he does is he looks at cold cases or unsolved cases in a sexual nature and can kind of give you kind of like what you see on TV with the FBI profiler. And he can kind of look at all the information and give you a range of what suspect you should be looking for, kind of a, 30 to 40, this, and this. So, but he did an extensive background of reading, research, and training. We've sent him to Canada. He's been to South Carolina, San Antonio. I mean, he's been all over the country learning how to do this job, and he's really, really good at it. So, so I get to interact with him, my boss, and several other Rangers that cover the surrounding areas on a daily basis. And then my guys that I supervise those guys, but then also supervise a Ranger in Snyder, actually 2 in Abilene, 1 in Eastland, a cold case guy in Eastland, and 1 in Brownwood. And then I have a Ranger in Brownfield. So, yes, sir.
Your Technically Tech football coaches, do you get a special seat for the game?
So doing security for Texas Tech football, do we get a special seat? And the answer to that is it depends. And 9 times out of 10, like last week when we had the rain delay, we were on our feet till we found a little crate during halftime, and we kind of sat on it. And I told the other Rangers, man, we got to do a better job of getting us some chairs. So, I mean, it's a great seat to stand. I mean, because we're right on the field, but it is a lot of time on your feet.
Yeah.
So.
You sneak in those tortillas.
Oh, we don't sneak in the tortillas. I did get hit by a tortilla last year, which kind of upset me a little bit. All these years I've done that, I've never gotten hit by a tortilla. But if you see me on the field, there's a net where the kickers kick the ball into, and I always stand in front of that because it typically catches all the tortillas. Yeah. So they're like, well, why do you stand there? So I don't get hit by the tortillas. So. Which coach do? Ooh. So every coach is a little different, right? So obviously, I'm very, very well. I'll say this. So Kliff Kingsbury was when I first started doing a job as far as traveling. I started doing security for Texas Tech back when I was a trooper, and we used to drive up here for the games, and then we'd drive back. We'd caravan like 5 or 6 troopers. We'd do traffic outside. We wouldn't even go inside the game. We'd go work traffic, and then we'd go home. And I really didn't even like Texas Tech football, but it kind of grew on me. over the years. So I worked traffic, then I started working inside, and then I got onto the visiting sideline. And then when I made Ranger, I started bringing in all the visiting bands because they were having a hard time coming from the old building down the tailgating side without things happening to them or getting throwed stuff on and so forth. So went to the visiting band, to the visiting sideline, to the visiting coach, and then to the head coach, and then start traveling. So I started doing it with Tommy Tuberville, but I didn't travel. And then with Kliff Kingsbury, I started traveling. So when you travel, you go, I mean, you ride on the plane with the team, you go do all the things with the team. So you really get close with the players and with the coach. So you get this special relationship that you probably wouldn't get any other place. Just, but one, because we spend a lot of time together with downtime, interviews, and so forth. So you get to know the coaches pretty well. Kliff was a great guy. Matt Wells was a great guy. I'm still in contact with, but I don't talk to Kliff as much, but Matt Wells, he'll call me from time to time. Hey, I got a daddy question. What would you do if your kid did this? I had a great relationship with him. I have a really, really great relationship with Coach McGuire. My son graduated from Tech, and he went to work for Texas Tech football as an intern, and then they just hired him back last year. So he's a full-time strength coach for Texas Tech football. So with that being said, we get to travel together. We get to see each other together. When I was talking to the coach before Saturday's game, we were walking in for the walkthrough, and he's like, man, I sure am glad to have your son back. They call him Diesel because he likes to drink Dr. Pepper. So, he's like, and I sure enjoy having Diesel back, So we had those kind of conversations. I went to his daughter's wedding. So you just build those relationships. So I would say that I've had my relationship with him has probably been more in depth. So I'd probably say that I've got to know him better than any of the other coaches that I've been with. And I tell everybody, what you see is what you get, man. He is diehard Texas Tech football, like 24/7, 24/7. So
Just get a lot of threats.
it just depends. I told Kliff Kingsbury his worst problem would be a crazy girl or a jealous boyfriend. So, but yes, I mean, now with sports and NIL, when the expectations are very, very high, and if we don't perform to the level of expectation of people, you always have some people that are not happy with the outcome. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You always have some people that aren't as happy with or think we should do better than what we should do. So those are the people you have to kind of keep an eye on. So it's not, knock on wood. I mean, I say that and then we'll have to go out and arrest 4 or 5 people, but it's not overly bad, but a lot of times you don't know how bad it is because our presence deters a lot of people from doing things. All right, so this is a little outdated because like I said, I did check my information before I came, but these are where our offices are, and currently 178. And that number fluctuates. But that's the 240 or 254 counties of the great state of Texas. So they were saying in the picture that, in El Paso was like the first time that they'd ever had all the Rangers that come together. So we try to come together once every year. This was in 2014 at the Alamo. And that's not all the Rangers, but that's a lot of the Rangers that were able to be there. So on this particular time, it's funny to me because you can always tell like who the chief of the Rangers is by what color ties we wear. So like in this one, the chief, he didn't really care about what kind of ties we wore, but now it's like, all right, so we're going to be here. So we're all wearing blue or we're all wearing red or so, but I think it's pretty sharp. So when we did a picture at Corpus, South Padre Island, we all had on red. We had on tan pants, white shirts, and red ties. And then last year, when we took our picture, we're in black shirts, black pants, white shirts, and blue ties. So moving to the 21st century, you can see some of the things we do. Officer involved shootings there. I think there's a laser, maybe. Yeah. It's not working on the screen, but so the top left-hand corner, you can see that some of our guys are working officer involved shooting involving a trooper. That's our bread and butter. If a trooper gets into a shooting, that's ours. Nobody else is going to work those other than the Ranger Division. And In other agencies, it just depends. Like if, Lubbock PD, they work their own shootings. But if the sheriff's office is involved in officer involved shooting, those are ours too. So they'll call 24/7, let us know, hey, we've had a shooting. We need y'all to come work it. I think the last time they had one, I was on vacation. We were going to Fort Worth and I was driving and I get a phone call and my wife's like, oh, who is that? I was like, she's like, we haven't even got to where we're going yet. And I said, I don't know. I don't recognize the number, but I need to answer it. So I answered and the sheriff deputy was like, hey, we've been involved in a shooting. I was told to call you. So, we gather our guys up and, the good thing about my job is I can do it pretty much anywhere. So I have a lot of guys that respond to certain situations if I don't have to go. So in those, we send our officer involved shooting guys and they all work them, but they go work those all the time. The middle top picture is our SOG, which is the Special Operation Group, basically your SWAT guys. We have Rangers that are cross-trained. So they do the SOG job sometimes, and then they do their Ranger job. But if it's a situation where we need to enter a building or so forth, then they put on that hat. So I would say we wear different hats for different days. So they put on their hard hats and they go and they rescue people. The top right is the recon group that go down to the border and work with the Border Patrol, National Guard to infiltrate drugs, immigrants or illegal immigrants and so forth. And a lot of people think, well, it's just illegal citizenship, but we get a lot of terrorists that come through the border, people from China, Russia, and so forth. So the work that they do there is very, very paramount to keeping people safe, not just in the state of Texas, but in the United States. You see our aircraft group with the airplane. So like I told you before, if we are involved in an investigation that goes outside of the state, we can call our aircraft guys. We have 4 aircraft people here. So we have a helicopter, but we don't have a fixed wing, but they're working on that. So if we need to go somewhere, we can call them and say, hey, we need to go to, I think the last time I used them for work, we went to Ohio to pick up a girl that had killed her boyfriend in Steiner. So, but you just hop on a plane and you go. We used them a couple of weeks ago on a murder in Comanche where the suspects got all the way to Maine. And so we flew our guys to Maine, not on that plane, but a bigger one. But flew them to Maine. They arrested 2 people, spent the night, and brought them back to justice in Texas. So middle group is a helicopter recon group again. And then we have, that's a old picture of our drone program. Now it's advanced. We used to have to self-launch our drones to get them up. But now we have electronic drones that you see on TV that you can just hit the buttons and they fly up and do a lot of work. The bottom left picture is just some drugs that they've gotten off the border. And the significance to this picture is what we call a splashdown. So anytime we have guys in the brush watching to see if somebody's going to come across, and they're basically just hiding out. And when they see somebody come across, they alert the guys in the helicopter and they'll just drop down and they'll drop them out of the helicopter and they'll go converge on them and seize drugs or illegal people or so forth. But on these, when they realize that police are after them, they drive back down to the river and they just, what we call splashdown, because they literally just drive their vehicle into the river. And once they get about halfway across, they know that we're not going to come after them. So they drive back in there and then we have to go fish the drugs out. And so that's what the bottom right group is. We have a tactical marine unit that's composed of highway patrol guys, and they basically drive up and down the river to make sure that everything's safe.
Was the David Koresh situation the most intense and the most lengthy that you've been involved in?
And I wasn't involved in Koresh. That was before me, but that was a very lengthy process. I would say the Republic of Texas was very lengthy too. That was like the first year that I was out as a trooper. So I didn't even get to go to that. But that allowed me to get off probation and work by myself faster because we sent all of our guys to the mountains for that. So I just got to stay back and work, but it was a very lengthy ordeal. So I don't know which one was longer. I'd have to go back and look at the dates on David Koresh, but that was a very, very bad deal. So we do criminal investigations. Like I was explaining to you before, we don't go out and solicit our work. We do. We tell people what we do. We go to the agencies and say, hey, this is what we're capable of. If you need somebody to do blood stain, shooting reconstruction, missing people, if you need to track somebody, that's what we do. Call us. And then we just sit back, and then when they call us, and we go and we do a good job, and then they just continue to call us. So we work off of pretty much like referrals. We do a body of work, and then people continue to call us. And like I tell people all the time, we're very, very busy. We don't lack anything to do. We do security operations, and what that entails, what we're doing now, when the governor flies in from Austin, we have 2 Rangers that suit up with our Executive Protection Bureau people. Right now for your nephew, Dustin Burrows, the Speaker of the House, he has a detail here because he lives here in Lubbock, which is something new that we haven't done before. But like I said, we adapt to everything. So we have a detail for him. So he's in Austin, but flying, well, I think he's here now. So I think he flew in at noon to meet the governor for an event that they're doing at the Alumni Fraser Pavilion Center this afternoon. So we do a lot of detail work for the governor, lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, and so forth, which that to me is the cool job. Some of the other stuff that we do: murders, kidnapping, sexual assaults, child abuse, officer involved shootings, in custody deaths, public corruption, embezzlement, fraud, and election violations. We don't do a whole lot of election violations, thank goodness, knock on wood, but we do a lot of public corruption. We have one ranger that's strictly assigned to do public corruption investigations. And he stays very, very busy. So anytime it's an elected official, say a sheriff, district judge, district attorney, anybody that's elected and there's some improprieties or accusation of criminal activity, then we call our public corruption guy, and then he works the majority of those cases. And what I was talking about before, the Governor's Protective Detail, natural disasters, which, like I said, we're currently dealing still with Kerrville, state facility security, and border security. And border security is pretty much an ongoing thing that I don't think we'll ever really get away from. This is some of the pictures of the Ranger reconnaissance operations. You can see like the splash down there in the middle. You can see they drive down into the middle of the river, then they pull up on a boat and they extract them out. They know we're going to chase them. So that top left-hand corner, those are spikes that they throw out to flatten the tires of law enforcement vehicles. So, but I will say, as long as we've done this, the legislators have really been good about making laws to protect us. So like I don't know what the degree of offense it is, but it's illegal to even possess those spikes. So if you just catch somebody with them, that's enough. So, because they were having officers that were hitting those spikes and wrecking out and getting hurt and so forth. So, but there's a lot of this that goes on every day and every night. So I always thank the guys. I'm like, man, I appreciate y'all doing that so I can sleep good at night. So I don't go to the border very often, and I'm very thankful for that. But we have men and women that are down there every day and every night to protect you and to protect the state of Texas. Officer involved shootings. A lot of times if we get into these situations where it's not a good shoot, like you see on TV, you have a couple of years ago, we had a lot of bad shoots across the nation that even though it didn't happen to Texas, we still get as a brunt of law enforcement because of what we do. They shoot a person that they're not supposed to shoot in, say, Minnesota. We catch the blowback here in Texas because we're peace officers. And even though we didn't have anything to do with that, but we catch a little bit of the residual for a bad officer involved shooting. So like I tell people, when we investigate these, all we do is report the facts to the district attorney and to the grand jury. We can't change what happened. All we can do is tell you what happened and bring you all the facts. So if it's a good shoot, it's a good shoot. And if it's a bad shoot, it's a bad shoot. And we've had to arrest officers before for making bad shoots. And that's just the nature of what we do. And a lot of times is why they call us, because we're unbiased when we come into a situation where, it's not our friends that we work with and it's not people that we are tied to. But we go in, we report the facts, we do what we need to do, and we turn that investigation over and let the grand jury decide what they want to do. Not always a popular opinion what the grand jury does with our investigations or with anybody's investigations for that matter, but we just report the facts as we see them. Major case investigations, we get a lot of those, a lot. I'm trying to think of I just drew a blank. Let me back up and I'll think of it. Major case investigations like what I was telling you at Twin Peaks, but also when the American Sniper, Chris Kyle, there we go. When Chris Kyle got shot, the Rangers were instrumental in that investigation. From the time that he got killed and his buddy to apprehending the guy, I think it was in Dallas or Fort Worth. I mean, and they spent hours upon hours tracking that guy down to bring that guy to justice. So we have the Texas Ranger forensic artist. We only have one right now. This picture was taken. We had Suzanne and George. But anytime that somebody is abducted or and a suspect gets away, and we have a victim that we can talk to and interview, we will fly them in. We've actually flown George in, I think, on a couple of cases here in Lubbock, to interview the person. And it's an in-depth process, in-depth interview where they sit down with him and they basically go through every feature of the attacker. And then he draws a sketch. And then we put that sketch out to the public, and that can help us to locate that person. And George came from Florida. I don't remember where Suzanne came from, but they are very, very, very good at what they do to help us locate suspects. And in another presentation I have that has more slides, I have some drawings of what they drew versus what the actual suspect looked like. I mean, and they're like spot on.
They receive special training besides being already artistic, learn how to do that, or?
Me personally? Oh.
The artist.
Oh, the artist, yes. So the artist, so one of the things you'll see, like what Suzanne is doing down here, if she's basically recreating a face out of clay. So they get, yes, whatever training they need to go to, they send them to. And it's just like with us, if you're the expert on footwear and tire impressions and you have a school, say a month-long school that you can teach us how to look at tires and figure out who did this and that, then we're going to send our guys and girls to you. So that is one thing I'll say about the Ranger Division. If you're the suspect, or not suspect, but if you're the subject expert in a category, we're either going to have you come to us to teach our Rangers, or we're going to send our Rangers to you so they can learn that information. And really, money is no object when it comes to training our people to do what they do and to do it better. So yes, they receive a lot of training. And on that one, what she's doing is she's basically putting together what a person would look like. And then she can build that, and then she can do an age progression. So say like a person went missing when they were 12 and now they're 30, she can show you what they should look like at 30. And it's really, really cool. So the question was, how do we choose the cold case? So I would say it all depends. So say if one Ranger's working a case and he gets busy and he can't solve it and he goes on to other cases, he'll still keep that case open. We very rarely will close a case and make it a cold case unless our cold case guys like, hey, I really want to look at that case. So we'll close, and we really don't close it. We just transfer it to the cold case guy. So it's really not closed, but we have a cold case guy looking at it. So we very rarely try to close a case if, unless it's been years and years and we've had no active activity on it, we might suspend it unless it's, like a murder or something that has no statute of limitations. But typically all of our cases are at least reviewed by the cold case guy, and they follow up on them every so often just to make for sure that there's nothing new or, you know, reach out to the agency or to the family to say, hey, has there been anything that's changed over the past several years that we can look at? And, but our cold case rangers, like, so we have one and he's in Eastland, but he's done a lot of great work and gone to a lot of different places to track down information for cold cases. They had one that was a suspect here in Lubbock that was down in, I think, Corpus Christi, that we got arrested just a few months ago. And then another program that we have here too for cold cases is what we call the SAKI program, which is a sexual assault kit initiative. And so any case that was involving a sexual assault where we have DNA, these rangers go out and make for sure that the DNA is collected from suspects. So when you get arrested for certain offenses, they're supposed to take your DNA. And sometimes those things have fallen through the cracks. So we have a guy or girl, for that matter, that gets arrested. They don't give their DNA, or they get out of jail or prison, and they offend again, and there's no tie to their DNA. So if once you get their DNA on file, they run that through the database, and then we get these hits saying that, oh, this person's DNA has been tied to a sexual assault that happened in 1983 or sexual assault that happened in 1995. And so they go and follow up and interview those people. And so they made a ton of arrests on making for sure that every person that committed a crime that we can lawfully have their DNA into the system and to CODIS, that their DNA is in CODIS. And so people that thought they got away with crimes from years ago, yeah, that's starting to bite them in the butt. So, yes, ma'am.
Question about you say the guys and girls. How many female, how many women rangers are there?
So how many females? And I was thinking about this in my head yesterday. So we have Wendy Wakeman. She's the major in Waco. I have Veronica Gideon. She's the ranger in Austin. Laura Simmons is in Greenville, and we have Nicole. I think she's in San Antonio, and then another. What is her name? Because I've only met her once. She's in Marble Falls. Right? Yeah. So we got 4, 5. Okay. And I've always told my wife, if something happens to me, I want you to call Laura Simmons, because I supervised her when I was in Garland, and she is a dynamite criminal investigator. So she will never leave any stone unturned. So she's very good at what she does. Very, very good. You know, the question.
Waiting list for the number of people that want to come in?
So the questions asked, is there a waiting list? So we have, yes, depending on how many vacancies we have. It seems like every time we get full, somebody retires. So we shuffle the numbers, but there's a lot of people that want to get into the Ranger division because our numbers are so low. And we're always recruiting good quality people. So the waiting list, I'd say, well, like right now we have 7 vacancies, but we'll probably have, a couple hundred people put in for it, or that we're actively talking to pursue this job if they're interested.
Can one of us qualify?
So, we don't have an age limit to come to the Department of Public Safety. So yeah, you want to go do, I think it's 7 months now, 7 months at the academy in Austin, and then be on the road for 4 years. Come on. So I don't know if I could do it anymore. So that's by the legislative group. They only want us, we only have an authorized number of 185. And I think a lot of that too is just because they don't want to grow too terribly fast and get the wrong people into the job. So, when you look at that number, 185, you figure there's probably 15 to 20, well, probably 30 bosses, and then 150 actual working rangers. So the 150, and that's not a absolute number, but you have 150 covering the 254 counties that we cover. So they're extremely, extremely busy. So I always say we can always use the right person, but we just have to pick that person. So.
I think the older undercover person would be great.
Are you interested in the job?
No.
Never see us coming.
Yes, sir.
Now that throughout your career, I suppose it's a given, where the criminal mentality is just much more brazen. Maybe because of disrespect for just general disrespect.
Sure. I would say that that's changed. Well, it just depends. I think here in Lubbock, I think it's a little different. Just because I think people know and respect law enforcement a little better. And when I say that, as a blanket statement, I think here people respect law enforcement in West Texas a little bit more than they do in some of the other places. They know who we are and they know what we do. Like when we're in Dallas, nobody really knew, like we'd go eat and they're like, oh, who are y'all? Y'all marshals or y'all work for the police department or whatever? Like, no, we're Texas Rangers. Oh, you know, so here law enforcement, I think as a general, not just the Rangers, but law enforcement as a general, I think is a little bit more respected in West Texas than it is anywhere else. And that's one of the reasons why I like being here. You know, yes, we have our crime and we take care of that. But I think as a general, people respect the position more than they do anything. So a lot of times where you come into situations on the border where they have no respect, and not just the border, but just other places that I've been, they have no respect for the badge or the position. And so you have to handle those people with a little bit different gloves than you do with people that are respectful and so forth. So to me, it's a lot different here than it is anywhere else. Yes, sir.
You all do any work with the joint task force that the sheriff's department has put together?
So the task force, the Rangers specifically don't, but we do have guys in our department that work with like our criminal investigations. We have guys that are assigned, and girls that are assigned over to the tag unit that work. So it's basically a combination of law enforcement from the state level, city level, and the sheriff's office level. So they work together. It's called a tag, the Texas Anti-Gang Unit, and they collaborate together to do a lot of the things. Like you're saying, being unseen, they do a lot of that undercover work, and they do really good work at what they do there. Yes, sir.
It sounds like a lot of these guys, gals that are placed are in smaller towns like Brownfield, Marble Falls, you mentioned Waco. Lubbock sounds like one of the bigger ones. Is that by design, smaller towns, or is that what y'all choose?
So it's kind of by design. A lot of times what we like to do, and that in my experience is where I think our Rangers are more effective are in some of the outlying areas, the rural areas that only have one or two officers. You know, they catch a murder at 12 o'clock at night and you got two officers, one works night shift, one works day shift, and you catch a murder. Well, they can't leave because they will have nobody on call or nobody available to take calls. So we can pick up those investigations. We can run with it. We can go to Florida. We can go wherever and do those things. And the resources that we provide to the smaller agencies, I think, are more needed than your bigger cities. So we have our folks lined out in those areas to be able to reach those communities a lot faster than coming from a bigger city. So it's not always by design, sometimes just by the pure fact that we have an office over here, we have an office over there. So a lot of times we're looking for office space to house people because that's the number one thing is that we have all these positions, but we have to make for sure that we have some place for them to do their computer work and store all their gear and keep all their evidence safe and so forth. Any other questions? Oh, we're good on time. Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of our own local famous Texas Ranger, J. Frank Norfleet from Hale Center?
Ooh,
He's my friend that was her grandfather, so he's really old, but there were books written about him and a movie, and he was really famous. He's from Hale Center.
I have to get his name because I think I have to look up somebody else too. Somebody else's grandfather to see. So it's one of the interesting things about our job is the history and the Rangers that came before us and really seeing what all they did. Because what they, of course, some of the older guys now, I call them older. I feel like I'm old too, but some of our retired guys, they'll come and we'll have functions with them. They're like, man, you guys, of course, it's one or two things. They're like, man, you guys don't do anything like what we used to do. And then when we do something really cool, they're like, man, how'd y'all learn how to do that? So So, but it's really cool to me to learn how they did things back then, you know, when they didn't have nearly the amount of technology that we have. Because I can tell you, when we go to a crime scene now, I mean, we've got $500,000 worth of equipment out doing certain things, you know, mapping, drones, and a lot of it is presentation for the grand jury. Because one of the things that I think has kind of hurt law enforcement is like you see the CSI on TV, and you watch an hour episode of a show and they solve it and they arrest 4 or 5 people, and then you know then they show you a preview to who they're going to arrest next week, you know. But when you get on a scene for us, if it's, you know, a true scene, you might not be able to solve that for a year or 2 years, or if you're lucky, you might get to solve it like right then or that night, or track down who you're looking for. But all that information that you have to gather up and evidence that you have to collect, you still have to present that to the grand jury. And when they see this on TV, you know, they're showing all these real cool fly-throughs and all these digital crime scenes. And so we do all that now. And a lot of the training that we get to do these presentations for grand juries, they cost a lot of money, you know, but we do the digital fly-throughs. And so we take a jury from, if something happened in here, we have the 3-dimensional camera that we bring out and scan the scene, but it'll fly into the door and take you all around the scene and show you all the evidence markers, all the bodies and all the things. So when so stuff like that, presentations, like when we had the shooting in Uvalde, and we had a lot of law enforcement resources on one particular place to capture the magnitude of the violence that happened. You know, so that's not a 1 week, 2 week, you know, that's a 6 to 7 months worth of legwork, you know, and sending folks away from their family to go do that job, and asking them to submit themselves to that stuff and then come home and act normal, you know. So so a lot of things that our guys and girls do are not normal to a lot of law enforcement. So
Y'all use genealogy like they show on all the TV shows?
So the Saki Rangers, so the question was, do we use genealogy like they show on the shows? And yes, ma'am. That's something that we've just got into the last couple of years. But the genealogy aspect of it is, hey, we don't know, you know, maybe we have a partial piece of DNA, but we can piece that back to family members, and then we can start tracking that down to, well, it's not you, not you, but it's probably going to be you. You know, so yes, we use genealogy. We have a lot of funding from DOJ. DOJ has given us a huge grant to use genealogy, and it doesn't come out of the state resources. We have that grant to run all those, because that's one of those things also that's very expensive to do, but we do it. We have two rangers and a lieutenant that are assigned, and that's all they do is basically those type of investigations involving genealogy.
Yeah, it takes a long time too.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's not not on TV where you put it in a computer and you have an answer, you know. So sometimes it can take weeks and sometimes it can take months. So
Specific rangers that still work cattle thefts?
so the question was, do we have specific rangers that work cattle theft? And so those are the cattle rangers. So that's not us. So yes, there are specific rangers, but those are the Texas Cattle Association. And they're the cattle.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they
Inspectors.
have their own inspectors. Now, I will say, when I was in Wichita Falls, because we're close up to Oklahoma, I work with some of the cattle rangers up there, but they do more than just cattle theft too. They do a lot of theft investigations, and they're a great resource when you're tracking somebody from Texas to Oklahoma, Kansas, because they know all the parties up there. So, but we don't do, well, we did work a cattle case last year. We did work a cattle case last year. So.
You work with game wardens?
So we asked if we work with game wardens. Yes, sir. We do, especially down on the border. We work a lot with the game wardens. And it just depends on the game wardens are very, very good scouts. So they'll go, they'll be gone and you won't even know where they are. And then you'll walk around and they'll pop up in, you know, some manhole or something. So, but yes, we rely a lot on the game wardens, especially down on the border. And then we work in hand with them. Especially if you have one like in your counties. When I was a ranger in Brownfield, we had a game warden, and we had a game warden in Brownfield and I had one in Post. So you get to bounce people, you know, because they see a lot of people, especially like the first day of dove season just started. So they run across a lot of people and, hey man, have you ran across this guy? Oh yeah, I saw him on this day. He had this gun, this, and this. And I go, okay, now I know where this guy is. So yeah, they're a great resource of information. So. Yes, sir.
In the old days, you would, according to the muster rolls, you could enlist, say in January, and then get discharged in May, and then come back and re-enlist in November and get discharged in March of next year, you know. Y'all don't do that?
No, sir. Yeah, I think now, well, I say that, we're about to, and we're just waiting to see how it's gonna work. But so the retire, rehire deal basically is what you're saying. That's what we call it. But like with Frank Hamer, you know, when he left the Rangers, he was out. And then you had Bonnie and Clyde that took place and they're like, hey man, we could use a guy like that. So come on back, you know, and do this job for us and get these people off the highway, and then we'll let you retire and go back to doing what you're doing. And now it's a little harder with the retire rehiree program. We're about to start doing that for the cold case position, just because we have so many cold cases that we're looking at that we need more people to do it. So specific Rangers that retire, they're gonna try to let them come back and just do that. So our, you know, like our cold case guys aren't on call 24/7. We've kind of designed that so that's all they do is look at cold cases, so we can kind of close the gap, because we have a lot, you know, and it's not just our cases, but I mean, cold cases are any case around the state of Texas that we can find, you know. So if you have, say you have 5, like, hey, let me look at those 5 cases you have, and then you might work 1 or 2, but you don't have time to get to 3, 4, and 5. So we have another guy that can come back and look at 3, 4, and 5, and then say we solve, even if we solve 1, in my opinion, we've done a great job. We've brought justice for 1 family, you know, or closure to 1 family. But if we can solve 3 of the 5, then that's even better. So yes, we're working on the retire rehiree thing. We just don't know all the details behind it yet.
I'm thinking part of that was whenever they had, I'm talking about between 1836.
Oh, I
and
got you.
46, when they might have a crop in the field and they
Sure.
might get discharged to go harvest a crop.
Sure.
And then come back and re-enlist.
No, not with us. If you're out for more than 2 years, then you got to start the whole process over, the whole process. Yes, ma'am.
Things like January 6th, did the Rangers get involved with any of the investigations of the Texans involved
January 6th.
at the Capitol?
Oh, no, no.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's pretty much all. So anything involving the US Capitol is first going to be Secret Service. And then they're going to call in the FBI to investigate. So unless there's some ties that float down to Texas, we probably don't get involved in much that happens at the state or at the US Capitol. Now, if it's the state capitol, then yes. Yeah, somebody comes in there and, you know, makes a threat or something like that, or, you know, does something crazy, then yeah, we'll get involved, and we'll get involved in that for sure, but not at the DC Capitol. Thank goodness.
Yeah, pull your gun, I mean.
Every day, no. No. Yeah. At football games, no. So the question asked, I mean, all seriously, in our line of work, that's one of the things I've always said, if I could make it throughout my career without having to shoot someone, then I think I'll have a great career. I've had to pull it numerous times, as a trooper, as a ranger, a handful of times, but knock on wood, we don't have to do that very much. So I'm also one of our negotiators, so I've learned to negotiate out of a lot of things too. So we,
One more question.
well, I have a question for y'all. So, all right, so if you go back and listen to the video, what year was the Rangers created? 1823. So I'm gonna give you this coin to
Hey.
That's the bicentennial coin, which covers the last 200 years, 1823 to 2023. So You're very welcome. That's the benefit from sitting on the front row. Now, what year was the Department of Public Safety created? 1935. See, it's all the front row people. Somebody just said it. All right, well, here, I'll pass you this. Well, yes, sir. Well, I appreciate y'all having me here. It's always fun for me to talk about Ranger history. I could talk about it all day. But we also have a retired Department of Public Safety member here too that I used to work with. So it's always great, great job to have. And I always tell people this is my first really, well, not my first and only job, but it's been my first career job. So 29 years. And the question I get asked every day is not, if I've shot anybody, is when am I going to retire? So like, I don't know if I look that old, but it's been a great job, and I've enjoyed doing it, and I've enjoyed getting to meet some of the people that I've got to meet and presentations that I've got to give. And that's the last picture I'll post. So
Yeah.
yeah. That's the picture my mother-in-law has on her phone. So she's like, yeah. Yeah.
Guy on the right.
Yeah. Travis Kelsey, I think. Good.